So I'm making this video over a church I went to in the past. Uh, it was in my original hometown. It was when I was about 15 before I started becoming a believer. And lots of people said, "Hey, this is a really nice church. You should come." This was the message that the church was basically putting out. "Hey, we have a really nice church. You should come. We have a great preacher. All this and that." And so we actually decided, "Hey, we'll start going to church there." Um, this church has nothing to do with my descent from belief, but it definitely it definitely showed me what the church is really like. So I'm going to this church, and this church offers free food and free drinks to people that go there. Typically, they had baked cookies at the door. They had meals sometimes prepared. They always had free drinks, not alcohol clearly, but soda, water, things like that. Well, one day I noticed in the youth group that you're collecting a lot of cans. By the time that somebody would take the trash out, which the youth group did, these cans would be like, I mean, like there would be huge trash bags full of just cans and bottles. And this was like literally a daily event. Like they would fill up that day. And so I made the observation that if we were to crush these cans and place them into another, in a trash bag, and crush the bottles and place them into a trash bag, we would be able to make quite a bit of money, really, for the church. And so our youth leader kind of looks at me and he goes, "Well, who would have to do that? Who would take them there?" And I said, "Well, everybody in this youth group's under 15. Somebody who volunteers for the church or somebody who works at the church could do it. It'd definitely be an income to the church." Now, this church had been propagating that they're trying to make money because they are trying to make this church that much better. And they were recording their sessions. They were trying to air it on TV. They were doing all kinds of things like this. Well, basically trying to become a mega church. Whenever I pointed out, "Hey, look, check it out. If you do this, you'll be able to make more money for the church. Yeah, it's only maybe $100, but that easily covers the gas there. That easily covers to the recycling center. It's only like a 20-minute drive. Uh, really, it's not that hard to do. You would just have to take your trash there, pretty much, sort it, and throw it away." So the preacher says, "Oh, well, I've got a way to we've already come up with a way to keep us from having to do that, but at the same time making money off of the drinks and the food that we serve." Basically, they became a restaurant. You could go in and you paid. It was very cheap, but you could pay money and get a meal served to you because the people that were cooking the food were people who volunteered there, and they had a kitchen. Go figure. A couple of kitchens actually, and they would prepare all this food before people would come in. Well, the history of the church is kind of nefarious, so to speak. Basically, the church was connected to a mall. Well, the person who owned the mall owned the church, and he owned the mall first. Uh, and he was using the church's status to get tax exempt status for the mall. And the same thing with the food that they were serving. And so basically, this guy was a genius. I mean, until the government caught on. But he didn't go to jail because he still had the money to pay the taxes. So he paid his taxes. When the government finally caught on to what he was doing, it took him like 5 or 6 years of suing him just to get him to actually admit to what he did because he was losing so much money. Then he had to pay the taxes for it. So anyway, he pays these taxes. They separate. He's still making money off the mall, and he's still making money, tons of money off the church, which was the preacher of the church that owned it. Um, so anyway, moving on. This church had a couple of problems with money. A few of the preachers had been stealing money from the church itself because claiming they didn't make enough money. The youth leader that I had suggested that to left because he wasn't making enough money. So when the church and everyone at the church asked him, "Why are you leaving? People want you here. Why are you leaving?" He said, "I'm not making enough money to help my family survive." This man owned his own car. He owned his own house. He owned 2 cars, in fact. And he had done this in the 3 years. He had moved into that house, bought it, and bought 2 vehicles in the time that he had gone or been working at that church, which suggests to me that he only wanted more money for the sake of having more money, which he was actually moving to California, and he was making what would literally be the same amount. But he actually ended up telling people before he left, he changed his answer to, well, that's what God's telling me to do, which I then asked him exactly how he knew this, and he just got mad, and so did the church, whatever. Um, so, so, yeah, that's that, and, yeah, I, it was crazy. Oh, and we also had a guy hang himself in that church. They had big rafters. I forgot about this. And in the big rafters, a guy actually tied a rope and made a noose and hung himself. And they, every day you'd come in, there would always be this bad smell at the front of the church, and everybody would be like, "What is that smell?" And apparently, it turns out it was a dead body. Um, but that all that tells me a lot about churches. Oh, and they also kept asking for money to expand, when in reality they turned around and used the money. This was in the past before I started going there. They used that money to expand to basically try and become a mega church, which failed miserably because they never. I don't think they ever did.